Today we're going to be diving into the weird science behind one of the most iconic sounds in bass music production, the reese bass. You guys have heard this sound in drum and bass, UK garage, dubstep, and so much more. Pop music, it's everywhere. This is one of the most used sounds ever. What makes this sound so special? In the next few minutes, I'm going to break down everything you need to know and more, so let's jump into it. What is a reese bass? This is it, alright? The next sentence I'm going to tell you, you can forget any other tutorial on reese basses ever, and just work off this one principle. You take two saw waves, you detune them, you phase them, you add some effects, you've got a reese bass. That's all it is. You can basically stop the video right here, but if you want to keep going and learn how to make the reese basses even more insane, give them more character, give them more movement through modulation, then you're going to want to continue watching this video because I'm going to show you everything. So here's the thing. Detuning causes the wave to shift in and out of phase. So to dive deeper into this, we're going to use a span to understand what's actually going on with the waveform. If we put on two oscillators like so, we just have our normal sine wave. Beautiful, nice, clear, but there's no harmonics. It's not powerful enough to get the reese bass sound that we really want. Could we potentially use a triangle wave? Not really, right? The triangle wave kind of loses all of its power on the way down from the cycle, which kind of follows closely with what's actually happening in the cycle here. We've got a really nice present sub sound, but it's not really going to do much for us when we want to use get more power out of the sound. It's really not a reese bass. It's just like a sine wave with a little bit more harmonics to it. Could we use a square wave? Ooh, hell yes, we could use a square wave. In fact, a lot of the reese bass sounds that you'll hear in, 90s UK garage, Bicep, all these kinds of artists, they'll use a square wave because it has this kind of like OE, kind of echoey, timbery sound that sits within it, where it's not this huge, powerful, distorted like drum and bass reese. It's kind of like this nice, cool, open, airy kind of reese bass that you'll hear a lot in that kind of genre of music. So absolutely, as long as it has like really rich harmonics across the spectrum, we can absolutely use it for a reese bass. But for the sake of this tutorial, we're going to stick with our saw wave. So what happens when we detune the saw wave? Let's detune the first one. Ooh, we've got some nice timbery, crunchy, crumbly sounds right there. Let's do both of them. That in its essence is the most simplest way for you guys to understand how a reese bass works. What's the point of jumping on YouTube and looking up Bicep reese bass tutorial and trying to figure out how they made that one specific sound for that one specific song when you guys can learn the fundamentals of how the sound is created and then take it to an infinite realm of possibilities. That's how you're going to carve out your own signature sound. That's how you're going to become great as a producer. When you detune saw waves, they start to phase, meaning that their peaks and their valleys don't always line up perfectly. Now this creates a phenomenon called beating. And no, I'm not talking about that beating.
You drunk, bro. Go on and go, bro. You bitch.
And I'm definitely not talking about that beating. This beating phenomenon really is like the science behind the reese bass. What's actually happening is the sound is oscillating between its quieter and its louder moments. And the result of that is this signature kind of wobble movement that you hear in the signal itself. And that signature wobble is the sound that we all have come to know and love as the reese bass. So let's take a look at what's actually happening with this phenomenon called beating. So we have our basic saw waves that are happening together in unison, really clear saw wave. And I'm just going to reset the values of the detune. And look what happens when we actually start to detune and increase the unison of both of these oscillators. See, all the peaks and the valleys are like interacting with each other. They're canceling each other out. They are phasing. And we can adjust the actual detune amount on both of these to get an infinite variation of the reese bass sound. So we could have something be a little more clear and sustained like this. Even clearer and a little bit more sort of lead sounding. Okay, so you all clicked on this video to understand the science of the reese bass. So let's put our what are they called? Let's put our science cloaks on, or science, jackets on. I don't even know what you call those fucking things. So not only does a waveform travel through space, but it also propagates through time. So that means if two waveforms can make an interference by going through space, this also means that they'll produce an interference when they overlap in time. Look, I know all this shit sounds very interstellar. I don't make the fucking rules, all right? I just explain them to you idiots so that you can create the reese bass and go make it for yourself. And this is the phenomenon in its basic parts that is called beats, which we hear as this kind of like rhythmic pulsation or this kind of like rhythmic wobble, this. What's really awesome about this sound is it can fill up so much space within your mix, so much space within your track. So if you need something to push a section of your song a little bit further, a reese bass is such an incredible sound, an incredible tool to always have in your arsenal. What we'll also notice here, right, is the slower the detune, the more gradual the phasing effect. However, the more you detune, the faster the beating sound is going to pulsate. So now that we've got our scientific capes on and we're thinking like a true Einstein music producer, you're probably wanting to ask a few questions and the evidence that's presented within our very scientific experiment. And that question is, why do we use saw waves? What's the point? Why can't we use any other kinds of waves? So the answer to that question is it's all about your harmonics. So the saw wave is really rich in harmonics, meaning there are multiple different frequencies that have the ability to interact with each other across the spectrum. And it really favors the phenomenon of beating a lot more. It allows for the beating phenomenon to really work. It really gives the reese bass this deep and complex character that no other waveform can really offer at this level of harmony interaction. So let's move on to the next part of our beautiful and very scientific experiment here when it comes to reese basses, modulation. And we're going to take a look at a sound like you would usually hear in a lot of drum and bass music, just bass music in general, which is more of like a neuro bass that's kind of pulsating and it's very gritty and it's dark. So we could turn on a filter like right here and we could use something like a phase plus 24. And here we're going to get more of that neuro dubstep kind of drum and bass kind of sound. And we can modulate it on both oscillators. What we're going to do is head over to our matrix here. We're going to go to macro 1 and we're going to set the destination to global master tune. We can add this maybe 12. And what we could also do is take our cutoff right here and we could right click, mode source, and add this to macro 1 as well. But then we turn this knob right here. The master pitch across the entire sound is going to change, as well as the phase 24 filter that we've applied. Another thing you could probably do is add an LFO onto the actual cutoff as well to give it a little bit more movement. This time we're going to turn off the BPM. We're going to take it down a little bit like so. Another thing that we could do is actually take the rate and attach that to macro 1 as well. So now whenever we change this, the rate of the LFO that's affecting the filter is also going to change with the pitch. Maybe we want a little bit less to actually happen with that, so we could turn this down a touch. So you'll notice there, it's all about changing some of these parameters around, really dialing them in and catching those like beautiful moments. I don't want you guys to watch tutorials and be like, this has to be at 16%, this has to be at that percent. The fun about learning sound design and learning synthesis, you know, whether it's in Serum, whether it's in Phase Plan, whether it's in Vital, playing around with stuff, dialing them in, you'll really catch those moments. And sometimes you'll get it and you'll play around with a few other stuff and you'll lose it. And it's all part of the fun about sound design, guys. It's so cool. So here we go again. So the next part of this is all distortion and saturation. And this is where you guys can go absolutely crazy, do whatever you guys want. It's important that you understand the fundamentals of how the sound is built, because now you can take it to any place that you really want. Now you want to be really careful when you're using distortion and saturation, because a lot of the times, a lot of people don't realize this, but you can actually get a really good quality sound right out of Serum without any post-processing at all. Let me show you an example. If I just chucked on an OTT right now, and this is what every other tutorial is basically going to tell you to do. They're going to tell you to chuck on an OTT because it's essentially just going to make it louder and fatter, and that's automatically going to sound good because our brains perceive something that is louder as sounding better. But you'll notice if I just chuck this on, we have lost like we've basically lost like 12 dB of gain. Now of course you could just pump the gain up like so. But you'll notice if I turn this on and off, the original sound actually sounds better. And there's not really that much need for the OTT itself. A lot of times you can use saturation and distortion to your liking to get more character out of a sound. But if you really know how to create these sounds from, the fundamentals themselves, a lot of the times you probably don't even need them. So to recap, the core of the reese bass is all about detuned saw wave, phasing, modulation, and adding some of that distortion to spice the sound up just a little bit. So thank you guys so much for watching this. If you have enjoyed this, you found it to be helpful, make sure to like, subscribe, and comment. If you want to learn more about any other specific topic, make sure to comment it down below and I'll be sure to make a video on it as well. You now know how to create every reese bass that you could possibly dream of. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.